Danielle was described by her family as beautiful and lively. As a little girl, she was described by her parents as being very energetic, very colourful, and enjoyed a lot of attention from her friends and everyone around her. As she got older, she had a lot of friends. She enjoyed listening to pop music, dancing with her friends, and shopping for the latest fashions. Danielle's mother described her as having an addictive personality. Her parents were not too happy about the people that Danielle decided to keep as friends and in turn hang around with. Her mother felt that her friends had quite a big influence on her life, and unfortunately it was not for the best, as Danielle started to experiment with substances in her late teens, hanging around in car parks till the early hours, smoking and drinking, leading to Danielle requiring these substances daily. She had moved to Bolton from Liverpool in the year 2000 and started working as a street girl. By 2002, Danielle was by now at her lowest. Danielle was 21 years of age by now and 5 months pregnant with her first child. She spoke about quitting in order to be a mum and start a new phase in her life. Her parents prayed that she would be able to do this and come away from the lifestyle that she had unfortunately fallen into. She worked the streets to fund her habit and had moved from Liverpool to Bolton 2 years before. In a statement by her family, they said that they believed Danielle planned to turn her life around for the sake of her unborn child. We know Danielle got herself into a bad situation, and people may have preconceived ideas about this and her life, they said. On the 30th of May 2002, Danielle was out working the streets with friends. It was the Jubilee weekend, and by 1 o'clock on the 1st of June 2002, Danielle had said goodbye to friends and colleagues as she walked away. She was last seen at 1:30 near to Burger King on the Trinity Retail Park, as she was seen getting into a black car. Danielle was also seen again on CCTV at a petrol station. Danielle left, saying goodbye to the driver, and the driver drove away. This left Danielle walking alone in the dark. It's unknown where she was walking to, but this was the last confirmed sighting of Danielle, and police believed it was only moments after this that Danielle lost her life. Less than 4 hours later, her body was found off Lower Bridgeman Street in Bolton. It was only a short distance away from where she'd been seen on CCTV. She was found on waste ground at the side of Bolton Community College car park. It was near to the red light area. It was a regular area where streetwalkers would take clients on foot. As it was a quiet area, it was dark and they could go out of sight and not be seen. She had been battered around the face, head and neck. A witness told police after this crime that they'd been behind the community college that night when a man dressed in black with like a black hoodie ran up the fire escape, which made a noise and led them to turn around. But the fire escape was a dead end. Unfortunately, it seemed that this man did not know this, but he seemed in a hurry, so he ran back down the fire escape and ran away. One of the witnesses thought it was a friend and shouted, "Jay!" As he ran, several of his things fell out of his rucksack. Maybe he'd forgotten to zip it up. An inhaler dropped onto the floor. A used drinking bottle and another item that cannot be verified all fell onto the ground as he panicked and ran off. Police searched CCTV cameras in the area to try and trace where this man went to, but it was evident that he was sat in a doorway for a while, keeping out of sight, before venturing back out to try and retrieve one of the items that he had dropped, although he did not retrieve the inhaler or the bottle. Unfortunately, police were unable to trace where this man had run to, but they did now have items that they could test for DNA. The Foster's bottle was the same batch number as the bottle found next to Danielle's body. It took some weeks to get the results from these items. Unfortunately though, whoever these belonged to had no prior history and therefore the DNA was not on the national database. The discarded inhaler led to a mass screening of male asthma sufferers in the Bolton area. Police went to Crime Watch, where they created a reconstruction of the crime, all in the hopes that someone may know something. All while police swabbed and eliminated 1,400 men in and around the Bolton area, and they were now considering widening the net. This was a double tragedy. It was not just one life that had been taken that night, but Danielle was 5 months pregnant. She had only just spoken about turning her life around. Unfortunately for her, it was not soon enough. But now, she would not get the opportunity to do so. She would never get the opportunity to become a mother. It was just a double tragedy for her parents, who had already felt so helpless and such heartache. This was just too much for them all to bear, and the news of the crime came as a massive shock to everyone who knew Danielle. Police were looking at men between the ages of 20 and 40 years of age, and apparently in males between the ages of 25 and 30, only 1 in 25 would be receiving that type of inhaler. They were looking for a male who had been in Bolton on the 1st of June 2002. They were asking the public to put the information together. Did they know anyone in their family who was in Bolton on that Jubilee weekend that used an inhaler like this, who was in this age bracket, who wore a black hooded jacket and had a rucksack with one single strap? If they could piece this together, they were asking the public to let the police know so that they could swab and eliminate them from their inquiry. Police enlisted a clinical psychologist who determined that this was an anger-motivated crime, that this person had probably not gone out that night in order to commit a crime, but they believed this person may have had a short string, and if in a relationship, could probably be quite argumentative and get angry quickly. By now, there was a £10,000 reward. Police still had the DNA profile, but without help from the public and men willing to be swabbed, this case went quiet for 3 years. After many months and even years investigating this case, detectives had a list of those who had been eliminated. They'd also got a list of men in the area who fit all the criteria, but they'd not been able to locate. This list was slowly dwindling, and by now, there were only a few people police were actually looking for. One of those men was named Stuart Milstead. He was a 31-year-old from the area who used these inhalers and had no prior history of crimes. Then, out of the blue, Stuart Milstead, by now knowing that police were looking for him, wrote a letter to police. This was 3 years after Danielle's body was found. In the letter, he told police that he was aware that they'd been looking for him and offered to give them a DNA sample. Police arranged to meet Stuart, who agreed to give this sample. And by the way he was acting, it just made police really suspicious. So they fast-tracked the sample, hoping that he would not flee the area. But Stuart disappeared from a rented flat in Gilnell Road in Bolton just hours after detectives took a swab from him. As police went to arrest Stuart, they realised he was not there. But at his flat, they discovered a letter. It was addressed to a detective involved in the investigation and to Danielle's family. In it, he confessed to taking Danielle's life and suggested that he would hurt himself. At the flat, Stuart Milstead left behind a 3-page handwritten, life-ending note in which was found alongside empty bottles, substances, and the flat seemed to be covered in copious amounts of red bodily fluids. On his floor, duvet, etc. A search was already underway for Stuart Milstead when tests revealed that the DNA matched that found on the inhaler, the beer bottle at the scene, and on Danielle's body. Police searched families and friends' houses looking to see where he could be hiding out, when a Bolton search and rescue team eventually found Stuart Milstead at Queen's Park. He had been living rough on a pond island at Queen's Park in Bolton. As they approached him, he quickly cut his neck. With police requesting ambulance backup immediately, he was caught and subsequently arrested, having minor treatment for his neck before being thoroughly interviewed and charged with taking her life. Stuart Milstead was highly educated. He was a university graduate. The court heard how Stuart had hit Danielle about the head with a house brick. in a drink and substance-induced rage. Stuart Milstead remained motionless as he was sentenced. Members of Danielle's family broke down in tears at the verdict and ran from the courtroom. The court heard that Stuart, who was born in Wimbledon, had moved to Bolton to study for a master's degree in automotive engineering. He was working as a customer service manager at a Hale-based finance company at the time. He had been drinking that night and taking substances when he offered to pay Danielle for sex. He gave her the £40, but a back and forth began after he tried to take the money back. She apparently just lost control, he said. He admitted that he grabbed her by the neck and hit her on the head with a bottle. Forensic evidence revealed that the brick had been repeatedly used. Stuart was brought to justice by a combination of forensic science and painstaking police work after a 3-year investigation, where Stuart eventually pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison to serve a minimum of 11 years. Although the family are pleased that the perpetrator has been caught, they feel that the criminal justice system has let them down. If this man serves the minimum of 11 years, he could be back out, either doing this again or living his life all over. But unfortunately, Danielle does not get the option to do that. She lost the option to be a mother, to get herself clean, to live a life. And it's just unfair that this man could, on good behaviour, serve a minimum of 11 years and start his life all over again.